Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Macabre Matinee with Craig and Sean. As per usual, I am Craig Lance.
And I'm Sean, bearded Capulin.
Well, it's nice to join you again, Sean, as we head towards our final of the original Friday the 13th movies
It's
with
true.
Jason X.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
We ready to do this?
We are as ready as we are gonna be after last week's. I think we're both extremely happy to move on, regardless of our feelings on this film.
I think that in comparison, this movie looks like Citizen Kane. So,
In space.
in space. So it's time for our weekly spoiler warning.
Yes.
Once again, guys, we can't talk about these movies without spoiling them. So if you haven't seen Jason X and you don't want to be spoiled, now is your chance. Press pause and go watch the movie and then come back and finish listening to our wonderful episode.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, so let's get to it. Again, this is Jason X Uber Jason in Space. Uh,
AKA Apollo the 13th.
yes, something like that. Uh, Friday the 13th, the next generation. Um,
Deep Space Jason.
yes, all of those things.
All the
Uh,
puns. Yeah.
it's like every horror franchise, well, just about, I say every, a handful of them all decided to do this, right? Where they go to space
I mean,
at some point.
inevitably, it has to happen. And to my knowledge, and this is a blanket statement, which maybe we need to keep track of all the in space movies that went out there, or all the movies that went to in space that didn't start off originally. Like which one is the best? Because this one, in my opinion, is up there.
Yeah, it's the three I can think of off the top of my head. It's definitely at the top. So
Right.
So yeah, let's dive into this. So this one was released in 2001, which was, I believe, about 8 years after the previous episode.
Yeah, something like
Uh,
that.
yeah, so this one's directed by James Isaac, and it's written by Todd Farmer, and it stars Lexa Dewin, I think is how you say her name, as Rowan. Sean, you know where you might recognize her from?
She looked familiar, but I did not look into her IMDb. Where do I know her from?
She played Talia al Ghul in Arrow.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. I kept thinking, man, she looks familiar, and then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, well, that's where I know her.
Yeah, I
Um,
would not have connected that if you didn't tell me or if I looked it up. That would have been the only way.
um, Lisa Ryder plays KM-13, the android. We'll just call her KM the rest of the time.
Right?
Chuck Campbell plays Sunarin, and then Peter Mintza is Broski or Brodsky.
Yeah.
Um, Most notably, you know him from his time on Spartacus.
Right.
And then, of course, Kane Hodder returning in his final role as Jason, I believe.
That is unfortunately correct.
Yeah. We've spoke about it. He was really good in the role. Suffered through a couple of crappy movies, but two
Yeah.
of the better ones, or one of the best ones, and then one of the middle of the road ones, probably. But
Right.
um, so this one opens somewhere in the early to late 2000s. So basically in the 2000s.
Right. Right.
It doesn't really give you a time frame, but you just know it's the 2000s. They're at the Crystal Lake Research Facility where Jason is chained up and guarded while they await their opportunity to cryogenically freeze him until they can figure out what the hell they're going to do with him.
Right.
Shortly after the opening, Dr. Wimmer, who is played by none other than David Cronenberg,
Yeah. That is a random ass cameo.
yeah, it was, um, shows up and has decided that Jason's regenerative powers are too valuable to be put on ice, so to speak. And as they go to prepare Jason for transfer, he, of course, does what Jason does, escapes, and kills all of the military. Well, not all of them, but just the ones that are there with Dr. Wimmer.
Right.
And Dr. Wimmer, leaving Rowan as the lone person in the facility to try and recontain Jason. She finally coerces him to get into a cryo chamber where she starts the process of freezing him. However, he stabs her through the chamber and the breach causes a lockdown, freezing them both. So we fast forward to the year 2445. Earth is now a barren wasteland, only visited by universities to see what they can find left to steal and take back to Earth 2 and sell, apparently. And I'm assuming that they've started the process of destroying Earth 2, because that's apparently what humanity does.
Well, yeah.
So
we know what we're good at and we stick to it, you know?
That's right. That's right. And Jason knows what he's good at, and he sticks to it as well.
You're damn right.
So the expedition finds Jason and Rowan. They determine Rowan can be saved and take both Jason and Rowan to their spaceship, where apparently is full of a bunch of co-ed, horny college students.
Rowan is, I'll say the sexiest scientists you'll ever see. They all dress like runway models while doing, not sterilized scrubs or anything, just midriffs and open shirts, and the future is awesome.
Future, yeah, yeah. Apparently, 400 years from now, everything is great,
right?
Unless you pick up Jason on an expedition,
right?
Rowan is soon woken and healed, and in the meantime, Jason is being dissected and examined, and as his body thaws, he of course regenerates and starts killing his way through the ship. Rowan warns everyone that Jason is an unstoppable killing machine and that they tried to put him to death like 5 different times before they decided to cryogenically freeze him because he is unstoppable. We also find out that hockey was outlawed in 2024. So if you are a hockey fan, you've got 3 years left. Sorry to tell you that.
I totally made a note of that too. That cracked me up. Like, oh Lord, hockey's going to be banned very soon.
All the students and the professor hide in the lab while the on-staff military personnel hunt Jason, or rather while Jason hunts the military crew. Jason channels his inner Rambo and quietly picks off the military crew one by one. The kids feel like if they can just make it to the nearby space station, they will survive. However, just as they are celebrating their chance at survival, Jason kills the pilot, and the out-of-control spaceship hurls itself through the space station, destroying it and everyone on board. Also damaging their ship quite a bit. They are now adrift in space as Jason makes his way for the students. As he gets to the lab, the kids manage to escape, and Jason attacks the professor, who believes Jason is only there because he wants his machete back.
the single greatest line in the franchise history. It's okay, everyone. He just wants his machete back. Yeah.
It couldn't happen to a nicer guy either.
Right.
As the spaceship is adrift in space, Jason stalking the students. The students decide that they can escape via the shuttle that they use to do their expeditions in, and they split up to make it easier for Jason to kill them. Rowan finds Brodsky. I'm just going to call him Broski because it seems more,
right,
appropriate to the setting. So Rowan finds Broski still alive. Broski, by the way, was the sergeant of the military, if I wasn't clear about that. And as they head back to the shuttle, one of the girls panics and locks everyone else out of the shuttle, and then launches the shuttle into the spaceship
As you do.
and destroys their only hope of escape and another large portion of their ship. Sunarin reprograms KM to take on Jason, and she manages to kick his ass, even blowing his head clean off his shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
This leaves KM, Sunarin, Rowan, Broski, and two other nameless students alive. They are held by another ship that is on their way to answer the distress call, and they realize that they have to blow up part of the ship to contain their life support system so they can survive until that ship gets there. In the meantime, the ship's AI has decided to save Jason using its nanotechnology, creating Mecha Uber Jason. I think technically they call him Uber Jason in the credits.
It is, yeah, it's officially credited as Uber Jason because for a short period in the early 2000s, remember Uber was just a thing? Everyone said.
It was, and remember how valuable DVDs were going to be in the future?
Absolutely.
The ship even decided that Jason needed some Sith eyes and restored both of his eyes. For the first time in Jason's life, he has two eyes, and they are evenly spaced and both open at the same time.
It's true.
Instead of the alternating, which eye is it that's messed up?
Right.
One of the students sacrifices himself to blow Jason into space, but that doesn't even stop Jason, who has the ability to propel himself in space now that he's Uber Jason.
Naturally, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't show it. I'm assuming he grabbed a hold of the hull of the ship and drug himself around or something. But
most likely.
Yeah. Eventually, the other ship shows up, and as they try to get on board, Jason tries to enter the new ship. Broski, in an evac suit, tackles Jason and takes him through space towards Earth 2 because they were that close to Earth 2, but yet had to wait for another ship to come save them.
Yep.
They enter the atmosphere and land in a lake where two teenagers decide to go investigate. And Jason now has a whole new world to terrorize in 2445. So that's pretty much the sum of it. Of course, there's a lot more stuff that happens, but, leave a little bit in there for your imagination.
Of course.
Yeah, so I felt like overall, even though this movie is set in the future and in space, they still managed to find a way to get back to the roots of the franchise with this one.
Absolutely. Even with the, by this point, other franchises have gone to space, and it's kind of become a trope for horror films. This one still, it was fun, unlike a lot of the others, I think. We still had a lot of the stalking, and we, like you said, we brought back a little bit more of the Jason roots. Even with a unique setting, it had that good feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the one Jason Takes Manhattan, where they're on a ship or a yacht for half of the ship. Movie.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's a way to get Jason in an enclosed space with a bunch of people so he can kill them, right?
Oh, for sure.
But it definitely has the feel of a Jason movie. They pretty much ignored everything from the last movie.
Yeah.
Except for at the very beginning. I don't know if you caught this or not, but when they're operating on Jason or whatever they're doing, it kind of appears like he's rising from a hellish landscape with all this fire and stuff in the background. And that, to me, was about as close as they got to acknowledging that the last movie even existed.
Possible. That's not how I kind of looked at it, because it was it was a very Danny Elfman style opening with the music, and the feel. Like, that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was supposed to be like his mind.
Okay.
Or like the inside of his, because this whole thing, there's a big emphasis on the reconstruction of him and genetic,
right.
building, so they kind of like showed the hellish landscape that is his body. Is how I kind of read it. But I guess,
Yeah, I
but the
mean,
hell thing, yeah, I see where you're coming from on that. I
I
could get
mean,
behind that.
and that could just, well, it could just be me reading too much into it too. But I did have that feeling when I was first watching it, and then it like goes to him opening his eyes. So to me, it was like his essence, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, returning from hell, entering his body, and his eyes open, and he sees a doctor
Well,
operating on him or working on him.
you know what? I'll buy.
But
You know what? I can buy that a little bit though because of okay, now here's a wild fan connection here. Okay, because you notice in this one, Jason's a lot less decomposed.
yes,
So let's take the child Jason from the sewer
yeah,
was captured, sedated this entire time. Jason Goes to Hell was a nightmare, which led eventually into the Versus movie. And he's grown
okay,
in captivity, deformed, weird looking, and he wakes up then in captivity in his hellish landscape he is living in.
yeah. I mean,
I,
I could buy that
I
just
just
as
made it
well.
up on the spot, so I know I'm sure there's flaws in it, but now I wanted to connect the the past two terrible ones with this okay one. This one's pretty middle of the road for me. We'll get to that. I just got some
Yeah,
my
yeah,
little
we'll get.
notes that I'd taken, like
Yeah,
after Jason Goes to Hell, how they had the whole
yeah,
military set up in the beginning and just ready for him, and then this one
yeah,
opens with him capturing him. Like at
yeah.
first, I was like, okay, why is Jason suddenly so easy to fucking track down and capture and or kill suddenly? But then it,
Because a new production company.
right. But if you want to kind of make some justification, if you think about how long he's been killing in one area, they about damn time they
Right.
got their shit together and were able to kind of figure out his pattern. So I'm
I
kind
mean,
of,
I actually, I had that thought in the last movie. Was like, yeah, it's about time the military came in and stopped him,
right.
or the FBI came in and stopped him. So,
Right. What I did like also is after he's cryogenically frozen and found in the future, that even frozen Jason can still dismember dumbass teenagers when he just fell over and cut off. Now I can't think of the kind of
Azrael,
Azrael
Azrael.
hit the stoner kid's arm, which I thought was funny. He's so damn dumb. Even a frozen Jason can still kill him if it wasn't
Oh,
for technology.
yeah, he's got a coffee mug stuck to his hand, and he's banging it on Jason's cryo chamber, and yeah. Uh,
That and I
so
oh go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that something I noticed is this movie borrows really heavily from Star Trek, specifically The Next Generation, which was pretty popular about that time.
Oh sure.
Um, you got KM, the android that moves and acts a lot like Data, except she actually can show emotions.
Right.
You have a holodeck, which they use to distract Jason at one point.
Right.
And at one point, Rowan even asked them if they can beam off the ship. So,
Right.
you know,
Oh, there's a lot of like I mean Star Trek especially, but there's you kind of get a lot of nods. I mean Aliens with the Marines sitting there on the
uh,
spaceship, I think
yeah, for sure.
was 100% there. The I think their gear kind of reminded me a little bit of Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it was a little honestly corny looking, the
Absolutely,
gear,
which is what
but
which to me is Starship Troopers. They have like all this advanced
exactly.
technology, and they basically just have World War II helmets and shit on them.
Oh
But
yeah, and they got for some reason you need to put a fluorescent light that shines onto your face as a Marine because you don't
yeah,
want to be in the dark.
it's scary in the dark, bro. In the future, everyone has a nightlight, because.
Yes,
But
yes.
I did get a giggle just I'm calling it Earth 2. I'm like, okay, so Jason's part of DC's Earth 2 continuity now.
Well, I mean, it can't hurt anything.
And I like that I know he's been frozen, he's slowly melting, but like you couldn't beat the timing of him sitting on the operating table. She took the mask off, which again had a pretty good decomposed face under there. The
Yeah.
look for the brief second we see it, and then she's going about her business, and then those two teens start doing the deed, and Jason sits the fuck up like people are having sex before marriage,
Yeah,
like still
I've
upholding
got to
his
go
value.
impose my morality on them.
Uh, I do like so we mentioned how hockey is banned in 3 years our time recording. Um, uh,
that line just cracked me up.
oh, absolutely. And I did like the line of like which when the main girl like picks up the super futuristic space shotgun and like, can you use that? It goes, it's just like riding a bike. It's not. That's a sci-fi shotgun.
Right.
But B, the
Right.
student said, "What's a bike?" So at
Yeah.
some point, bicycles no longer exist in the future. So cyclists, your time is nigh. It's coming up.
Yeah.
But like
The
little thing,
cyclists and
yeah,
hockey players, get your act together
right,
because it's about over for you.
right. But I think some of the humor, which also kind of incidentally kind of did a little world building. Like,
Yeah.
like I like he wasn't a pilot. He was kind of like, I guess they're like maybe they're engineer or just kind of repairman. And he's
Yeah.
talking about like they saw the pilot chopped up to bits. He goes, "This was nothing. During the Microsoft conflict, we were beating each other with our own limbs." So at some point, Microsoft got so tired of Xbox sales being so poor that they went to war, and it was apparently super hardcore and awesome.
Yeah. Who did they go to war with? And was it just gamers beating each other with their own limbs? We want to know these things, just like we wanted to know what the Clone Wars were in Star Wars.
Dude, like when we get the CG animated Microsoft conflict saga on HBO Max, and it's gonna just
Right.
totally open up the entire future to this. But those are just some like my thoughts while watching this film. I do have a little bit of a little background info though, if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah. Share some background info.
This is the least censored from the MPAA Friday the 13th movie in the franchise history.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, based on when it came out.
Exactly. Like they finally have started to relax. I guess let it like.
Well, I mean, you had nippleless androids in it.
Hey,
So.
well, she had them until they fell off. Okay, like she can't help herself. They were doing their best, but it was basically
Right.
just a few second trimmings of like certain violent scenes is all they had to cut.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the most successful Friday the 13th films, but not in theaters. The DVD sales apparently
Really?
were just super well. It made its profit from after second market after theatrical release
Oh, okay.
because it did
Okay.
not do well in theaters. Although I saw it in the theater, but granted I didn't help it because I was working there, so I didn't have to pay for it.
I saw it in theater as well.
Right. Let's see what else we have. In the virtual reality distraction scene, the Camp Crystal Lake, taking him back to his home.
Yeah.
Betsy Palmer was supposed to return and be
Oh, really?
and reprise her role as the mother, as Mrs. Voorhees. But it was money and lack of interest on her part, which hey, can't blame if you're she's been this far absent from the franchise.
I mean, she was also 30 years older.
Yeah, exactly. So it would have been kind of cool. Apparently, the
It
director's
would have been cool.
the idea of it was though, which was going to be an interesting turn for a kind of a change in Jason, was he was going to see the mother and kill her,
Oh?
showing that he has just gone completely away from any humanity he used to have.
Well, that would have been a pretty cool scene, actually. To be honest with you.
Exactly. It's almost like wow, okay, because it really would differentiate from his living, to avenge the mother and everything, to what he's become now. So I thought that was pretty cool. But
That would have been good. I would have really enjoyed seeing that scene in there. I mean, that scene was pretty funny, though. We'll get back to your trivia here in a second.
oh yeah, sure.
But that scene was pretty cool when he's Sonarin's like 1980s, and they're just completely stereotypical 1980s
Oh, yeah.
girls, and they're like, let's have premarital sex. We love it. Let's smoke some pot.
And
let's drink some beers.
And the acting is like intentionally worse.
Yeah,
No, like it was a good nod. And then of course
it was.
the tribute to the sleeping bag kill
Right.
was just
Right.
hilarious. I cracked the fuck up in the theater.
Well, I was laughing watching it today because every time he swings the bag, they're going, ow.
Yeah,
Ow. Ow.
exactly. It was just really funny and a great, like I said, a good moment with, like you said, with the VR room or the holodeck, as in they
Yeah,
call it in Star Trek. But yeah, that was like definitely memorable. One of the more memorable scenes of this film.
for sure.
But
Uh,
really, that's a lot of like the behind the scenes. Oh,
the behind the scenes.
well, except one thing, and it is contradictory to your wrap up of the story.
Okay,
According to director, and technically, since this is a future tale, even before the time jump,
right.
Jason burned up in the atmosphere. There is nothing left for him to
Okay,
regenerate. This is
okay,
the death of Jason in this film.
okay. Well, it kind of left it, either or. His mask, I guess, landed in the water,
Yeah,
and
I
it
felt
was
the
just
same
kind
way
of
too.
that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's no, that's okay. That's good to know though, because apparently he is not going to keep killing
Yeah, on this on
apparently
Earth 2.
thousands of people at this point. So
Well, and yeah, and here's one thing too, because like I said, the mask that was what the director and writers were trying to kind of get across, but of course leaving it ambiguous just in case. But since
yeah,
after
yeah,
this we had the Versus movie, which was in a technically a pastime line or even an alternate timeline. We
right.
really want to get into the multiverse theories with Jason Voorhees, and then we got the reboot. So as far as this, not that it's wholly connected with the old stuff, although you could still make it a timeline of sorts. This was the end of Jason.
Yeah, well, there you go. That is, I mean, I like I said, I read it or saw it differently, but if that's what they say their intention was,
Right.
I am all behind that because it fits with what is on the screen and does not distract from the experience at all.
Oh no, absolutely.
In my mind, those two teenagers ran off to go check on Jason and the falling star that landed in the lake, and they got sliced up by a machete that miraculously appeared.
I want to believe it too. And again, until literally just doing some more research for this review, that's how I always
Yeah,
took it. I mean, he landed on
yeah,
a lake with campers. What else are they
right.
implying? But apparently, that's what he wanted. But honestly, I think they were still leaving it very up to interpretation, very ambiguous in case there was ever going to be a continuation. I think the knowledge now that it's not continuing with this series, this timeline,
Yeah.
I think they went ahead and like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that as you said, it the franchise has moved in a different direction and hasn't done anything what in probably 15 years at this point.
At least, yeah, because this was,
Yeah,
like you said, this was 2001. We had a remake that's also not going anywhere. So,
yeah.
and that was
Uh,
2009. Look at the DVD, so it was around that time.
okay.
So, yeah, it's been a minute since they've done anything with this franchise.
Yeah. So let's talk about Uber Jason a little bit.
Right,
What
right.
what did you think of Uber Jason? Because I think that was kind of the the kind of reveal moment of the movie.
Oh yeah,
You know.
I mean it was all in the marketing. You saw
Yeah.
that he was, this is a souped up Jason. Uh, for what they've been doing, I guess it's kind of like it fits the theme. With everything
Yeah.
being all sci-fi. I would have liked if he hadn't gone out by fighting a Matrix android and fast forward. Had been the one that took him out into that position. But
Yeah.
again with
That scene we're not going to talk about a whole lot because
yeah,
it
not the
yeah.
best, not the highlight of the film. But what it led to though
No.
is a very interesting look, a very, I mean, memorable. Whether like I'm not gonna say I hate it, but I'm not gonna say like I popped huge for how much it changed.
Yeah.
I didn't like
Yeah.
I well, main thing I didn't like his new machete. I
Yeah.
just didn't like the design. It looked a little weird to me. It didn't flow as good as a good old standard one. But it
Yeah.
didn't bring the movie
Yeah. I
down.
just yeah, it doesn't bring the movie down, but it wasn't. Does Jason really need an upgrade?
Yeah, it
You
was.
know.
I mean, compared to what they tried before, because like obviously, New Line got this franchise when it was like we can do Jason more. I know this was in the 2000s, but to bring the 90s, extreme mentality.
Right.
This is still kind of a leftover. 2001 was still kind of the late 90s anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
So this was like uber extreme. He drinks Mountain Dew and kills teenagers. Like, I mean, like, it's what it felt
Where's
like.
my Baja Blast?
The Baja Blast every time. But like I said, it was kind of fitting. I mean, they laid the groundwork with the nano machines and made the technology. Will, like, to me, and this might be a deep dive unless some of y'all are like hardcore like video game fans. The mask was very Splatterhouse, and I don't
Yes.
know if that's intentional or not. If it was a tribute, awesome. If not, it was a little close for just trying to like
Yeah.
rip out. He looked very Splatterhouse, and honestly, like when you look at the whole, here's the problem I have with it. If anything, like give him the new mask, the fixed face, sure, the arm, but there was something about the leg bothered me. Like that was
Yeah.
like it was too much. Like if it was just kind of more the upper torso getting fixed, I think I would have been a little better
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, maybe. It was a little off-putting, but it's, as you said, it's not so off-putting that takes you from the movie. And honestly, it happens at the end of the movie, so it's not like there's a whole lot of dealing with it.
Right, right.
Um, there was one scene in there that I have to bring up because he's got his futuristic machete,
Right.
and it's when he kills the professor, and he
Mm-hmm.
picks up the other machete, and he's wearing a hockey mask. Do you know who that reminded me of?
Who was that?
Dravis, my D&D character.
Oh. Right.
Jason was dual wielding machetes for just a
He
moment.
did have a moment. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I forgot. Yeah, he was holding them both. Yeah, which we
Yeah,
haven't seen him do, and that would have been seeing him go on
that would have
a
been
dual hacking spree.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
would have been great. Yeah, that little, but he had a little Dravis moment. I can't hate on that. Very true.
yeah. Um, so the score in this movie, we've kind of quit talking about them, but
Right.
because for the most part in Friday the 13th movies, the score is pretty much non-existent except for when Jason's killing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you get the thing.
Right.
Um, the score in this movie is absolutely distracting to me. the
Yeah.
the best scores in horror movies tend to be unnoticeable
Right.
and just kind of build tension in the background. But this one at times actually drew me out of the movie. It was so like out of place. Did you get that feeling, or is that just me?
To be honest, like unless the movie is a like in the past ones, the more stalkerish Jason is really where the
Right,
musical score stood out to me. With this one
right,
being fairly fast paced, even though we had the stalking moments, it's
yeah,
very in your face. It's very a product of its time. Like there's no subtlety to this one. There's a lot of like one-liners that are referential to what's happening. Oh, this sucks on so many levels.
yeah.
To where honestly, like if it wasn't like Linkin Park blaring in the background or something, I honestly was not paying much attention. You know what I
It
mean?
just it
Yeah.
generally I don't notice the score in a movie,
Right.
but there was a couple of times I was like, "What the hell are they doing there?" But you know, um, overall, this movie, you got some solid acting from Lexa Doohan is Rowan
Right.
and Peter Mintz as Broski. There's a reason why they both went on to do other things.
Oh,
And Peter
absolutely.
Mintz, you will definitely recognize when you see him.
Yeah, he's popped up in a
Um,
lot of stuff. But like you said, Sparta was a
yeah,
huge thing.
Spartacus.
Spartacus, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge series for him. He was a major part of that.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like, as soon as I'm like, yeah, I definitely know him. So I had to look it up. And,
Oh, yeah.
some of the other acting, it's a sci-fi horror movie. Don't expect too much.
Right.
As you alluded to, there's some pretty cheesy lines. That this sucks on so many levels as she's about to be sucked out the grate through a grate into space.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, but some of them worked. The "What's a Bike" cracked me
Right.
up. They're being chased by Jason and they're leaving everything on the ship, and that same gal tells Rowan not to ruin her pants because Rowan's wearing her clothes.
Right.
That kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Um,
Yeah, she was
when
like I can't think of the character's name, but yeah, she was a lot of the.
Janessa, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the right there. She's a lot of like quick wit, humor, kind of the annoying character at times, but like yeah, you got a few. It worked on a few times, more than just a few times. I think she was like I don't think we got. She wasn't so bad that we were waiting on that satisfying kill because we really didn't get one with her. But like just the whole her interactions with the students, I really didn't mind.
There was no like complete and total like jerk or bitch in this movie,
Right.
except for the professor was a little cringy, but he dies
Yeah.
pretty quickly. Um, I mean, he's a little scummy. He's just looking for some money. He's using his students to make money, which is kind of a commentary on our university in general,
Right.
our university system in general. But overall, there wasn't really that person. You were just rooting for them to die.
Right. Right.
Uh, but this movie was really kind of about the kills. Um, Speaking of kind of cheesy lines that worked in this movie, when Broski gets quote unquote killed earlier in the movie, and the first stabbing is through a wall through his back, and he says, "You're gonna have to do more than tickle my ribs if you want to kill me." And then the machete comes through, and he goes, "Yep, that'll do it."
Yeah, that was that's a pretty good, tough guy, space marine, kind of like comment. I
Yeah,
ain't got time to bleed, kind of
yeah,
thing. But then all of a sudden, doop, you're like, yep, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That works for me,
Like I said,
or that'll do it. Yeah,
yeah, it's again the tone they said, especially once they get onto that spaceship. It
yeah,
it was pretty fast paced. It was pretty, like obviously a different style and tone from the previous films, and so I think a lot of the humor and like obviously the sci-fi stuff. I think that's why I didn't mind Uber Jason
yeah,
because
yeah,
like Friday the 13th is campy to begin with, but this is some real sci-fi camp and kind of
yeah.
but well done. You know what I mean? Like not a negative way. Like they pay tribute to a lot because it's kind of self-aware.
It definitely is self aware. It's not trying to take itself seriously.
Right.
It is pretty much let's put Jason in a situation and give him plenty of people to kill and see what happens.
Right.
I mean, the script pretty much writes itself, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
more or less. Yeah.
now, one of the things in this one that's really hard to determine is kill count
Oh, yeah.
because I went and looked online and they give him 24 deaths that on this, but we really don't know how many he kills because he destroys the space station.
Yeah,
And
actually,
how many people were living on that space station, we have no idea.
actually, there's a funny thing behind that. Uh,
Yeah,
the director had actually had a comment because someone had like messaged him about like, Jason's kill count has skyrocketed to like 20,000 because of how many
yeah.
people are on that space station. And he goes, "You guys are being ridiculous. There was 19,400. Like he has some random ass number that was just below the rounded up." So
That's hilarious.
yeah, he's technically responsible for now. He is in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, at least 10,000 plus. We
Yeah.
have no idea how many, but yeah, overall, it was much more enjoyable. I do like one thing that New Line did with the series,
Yeah.
and that was to put a chase scene or a stalking scene at the beginning of the movies.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where in the previous movies, it was there was always a kill to kind of get the movie started,
Yeah.
but it was never really a like stalking scene like Jason hunting somebody. It was just, oh, here's a random person, Jason shows up and kills him.
Right. Right.
So I kind of like that because it immediately builds that tension and gets you in the mood for what you're watching. Um, overall, not a bad movie. Not the best of the franchise by far,
Right.
but not the worst either
Oh
by
no.
far.
Oh, far from.
So, what was your kill of the week or favorite kill, best kill, whatever we want to call it?
Uh, well, you have to give credit to the sleeping bag tribute, but
Yeah,
since that's technically VR and he didn't actually kill anything, you can't.
right.
I don't credit that. So mine is, I believe it was one of the Marines. There's a large drill instrument sitting in a hangar, and Jason just chunks this dude on top of the drill, and you just see him spin down it as he's going
Oh,
down
which
the. Yeah.
which led to one of the cheesy lines in the movie because somebody says, "Well, I found so and so," and Broski says, "Well, what's the situation? He's screwed."
Yes.
I
Yeah.
went with the cryo freeze and
Okay.
smashing a face.
It's a
So
damn
he
good one.
takes, he takes the one girl on the ship that's sympathetic to him and shoves her face in a bowl of cryo freeze. Apparently, it's just laying around in the sink,
As you do in
and
science.
and shoves her head into it. And then that wasn't bad enough, but he smashes her face completely off of her, which was a pretty fun kill,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, the viewers get to see that clip in on our video here.
Oh,
I made sure to
nice.
at least get that one captured in there because it's a damn good one. But I don't know why. Like if he had just dropped the dude on the screw and he just stayed there, it probably I would have picked the cryo freeze. But something about him spinning down it was just
It
perfection.
was, yeah,
I loved
yeah, it
it.
was pretty funny. Um, and a typical Jason kill, you know.
Oh,
There was
absolutely.
another one where he picks up one of the Marines and just breaks his back
Oh yeah,
over his
yeah,
knee and kind of like a Bane Batman style, which was pretty great too.
right.
Uh, I love how these Marines just had no idea what they were dealing with.
Nah, nah,
You know, they
they were
were all
not
just
prepared.
gung ho. Yeah, and of course, no one's listening to the one person, the scientist from the past, that can tell them, you know, what they need to do. They're just kind of ignoring her, because even in the future, misogynism is still a thing.
Oh, it's true.
But you know, another character that kind of had I'm not going to say his death was off screen, but the pilot,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah.
he gets slashed from behind, and I kind of like the pilot. He was kind of a dick, but he was also kind of funny.
Right,
Um, he gets slashed from behind, and you see the blood splatter, and you think, oh, okay, well, no big deal. Well, later, as they make their way to the bridge
right.
to release the shuttle, I mean, there's just body parts everywhere. Jason did not just stop with one slash of that guy. He cut him to pieces
Yeah, he hacked the
and
shit out of him.
left body parts everywhere. Um, and what was the deal with her having to cut off his mask? I mean, is it so tight on his head now that it's just his skin's growing around it, or what?
Uh, I don't know. Other than
Just to add some effects, maybe?
well, I guess they just wanted to have a way to show his face but keep the mask on, and
Yeah,
I guess with hockey being banned for the last 500 years, they don't know how to unstrap a hockey mask.
maybe, you know.
You know,
And as you
these are
said,
sexy scientists. We can't really
yeah.
bring logic into it.
And as you said, he was a bit less decomposed. So if you know, your theory is not a horrible theory that, you know, this is a second version of Jason, um, in a separate timeline somehow, you know, because we did have child Jason out there.
Yeah, they
So
just
that
left
is,
him in a sewer, so that's like, and that's kind of like I don't know. It's fully stretching it, but I don't know. In the moment, I had to throw in a wild ass fan theory,
it's not a bad one when you think about it,
and at least
because
it
it,
writes off Jason Goes to Hell as a dream, so we can all forget about it.
yeah, um, or it's a alternate timeline
Yeah,
because you
well,
have
of
two
course.
different Jasons after that
Now we're
somehow.
getting into the
So
Jason multiverse where Freddy versus
yeah,
Jason versus Ash exists in the from the comics.
did you? On a little side note, derailing this, did you ever see the Freddy versus Michael fight?
No, I don't think so.
That it was a fan made fight,
Uh huh.
and it's because a lot of people don't want to recognize like 5 of the Halloween movies where Michael is actually a demon.
Right, right.
They just want to say he's a man in a mask. And so they have this fight, and Jason just cuts off his head. They just walk up to each other, and Jason just slices his head off into the
Right.
fight. It was obviously made by a Friday the 13th fan.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess we still got to rate it. What's your thoughts on that?
For me, it's a solid 3 stars. It's
Oh, okay.
it's middle of the road. I do have an affinity for it because it was my first Jason movie in theaters that I ever saw. But like, I mean, it's not a perfect film, but I think it's good. It's fine. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, honestly, it's a 3 for me. Especially looking at it more, analytically and after truly analyzing the entire series. Because like, I mean, if I would probably have given it a 4 a few years ago,
Yeah.
but in just comparison to some of the other ones that we've discussed and really dive deep into it with somebody else besides just me fanboying over the franchise, but it's still a 3. And
Right.
it's not in no way is that any kind of like a bad thing. A solid 3 for me.
I gave it a 2.5, and
Okay,
again, it's not that that's a bad rating. It
right,
to me was a very middle of the road entry in the franchise.
yeah.
It's not the best one I've seen, but it's by far and away not the worst one.
Well, even at
And
two and a half, I feel like from when we talked before about how you said you felt when you watched it in theaters, I feel like it's grown on you a little better.
oh, for sure, it was definitely better than I remembered it.
Okay, yeah,
Parts
yeah,
parts of it are still cheesy and cringy, but
right.
again, once you realize that the film is aware of itself, it helps. And having watched it right on the heels of Jason Goes to Hell, um, definitely made it seem like a better movie because I had seen Jason Goes to Hell probably 5 or 6 years before I saw Jason X without rewatching it before it came out in the theater.
Right.
So without the two to compare them, it definitely the analyzing these together and watching them back to back to back and analyzing them helped the value of this movie, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So yeah. So do we want to talk about where everything rates at this point, or do we want
Well,
to wait till we watch
I would say we got
the
one more.
remake? Yeah, we got the remake, so that's going to be next week's show.
I say we
Uh,
we rate everything with the remake as
okay,
well.
okay, can totally do that. So, surprise, this one's somewhere near the middle, just about where we said.
I think that's
So,
where it belongs. I feel that.
yeah,
I feel that.
yeah, yeah. So, you should definitely watch this movie if you're a horror fan. Um, there's going to be parts that you're gonna be laughing at, and there's going to be parts that you're going to be like, oh, that was a pretty solid kill.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
and it laughs at itself and it knows what it is. So enjoy it for what it is, and keep enjoying these horror movies.
Oh, for sure. And keep enjoying us talking about these horror movies. If you enjoyed what you heard, of course, give us a like, give us a comment. What did you think about this film? I know a lot of our viewers may have like may also have been one of the first ones that you may if you went and saw it in theaters. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you about that. And of course, share and subscribe to our channel. And look forward. We are nearing the end of the Friday the 13th for now. As we discussed previously, we'll be returning once we get another one, and we got more movies down the line planned. And we thank y'all for tuning in with us. Hopefully, maybe you've enjoyed some of our suggestions, what what we thought about them. Maybe you want to go back and re-explore these. But
Yeah.
that is going to do it
No,
for today. Oh, sorry, you got something?
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm agreeing with everything you said. I didn't mean to interrupt your spiel there.
No worries. All right, that's going to do it for today. So we'll catch y'all next time.
See you next week, guys.